The sun hung low over the crimson mesas of the Dinata, casting long, jagged shadows that looked like the claws of forgotten giants reaching out from the depths of the underworld. Neizghání stood upon the summit of a sacred peak, his flint armor catching the dying light and reflecting it in sparks of sharp blue and obsidian black that shimmered like 1,000 stars trapped in stone. He was the first son of changing woman, born from the union of the sun's blinding rays and the mountain's silver mist, destined from his first breath to be the impenetrable shield of the five-fingered people. His heavy breathing was the only sound in the vast, oppressive silence, a rhythmic reminder of the countless, soul-tearing battles he had fought against the horrors that once stalked the four corners of the earth. For many long years, he had traveled to the very edges of existence, hunting the Naayééʼ, those primordial monsters that had nearly extinguished the human race and turned the world into a slaughterhouse. In the flickering light of his memory, he saw the giant who kills with his eyes, whose cold gaze could turn a man's blood to solid ice before his terrified heart even had the chance to stop beating. He remembered the great horned monster of the dusty plains, whose charge could split a granite mountain in two, yet fell before the hero's lightning-tipped arrows in a spray of darkness and thunder. Behind him stood his twin brother, born for water, the silent observer who had watched the sacred prayer sticks for signs of life, while Neizghání faced the absolute darkness of the void alone. But today, the atmosphere felt fundamentally different. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and ancient dust, a heavy sign that the era of physical monsters was drawing to its ultimate, inevitable conclusion. The great twin looked down at his weary hands, calloused and stained with the essence of creatures that should never have existed in the holy light of day, feeling the weight of every life he had taken. Is it truly over, brother? Has the world finally been cleansed of the shadows that haunt our dreams? Born for water asked, his voice echoing softly against the ancient sandstone walls. Neizghání did not answer immediately, for his divine eyes were fixed on a swirling vortex of shadow deep within the valley, a darkness that seemed to swallow the light itself. He knew in his heart there was one last hunt to complete, one final, stubborn shadow that refused to fade into the annals of history and become a mere ghost of the past. This was not a monster of flesh, bone, and scale, but a lingering corruption of the spirit, a remnant of the chaos that had reigned supreme before the sun was tamed by the holy people. He adjusted his heavy quiver, feeling the immense weight of the bolts given to him by his father, Naayééʼ, the sun carrier, who rode across the sky in a blaze of fire every day. Each arrow was a concentrated sliver of pure, unyielding sunlight, capable of piercing through the thickest supernatural hide and the darkest, most twisted intentions of a malevolent mind. As he began his descent down the jagged mountain path, the wind began to howl with a feral intensity, carrying the spectral voices of the ancestors who had prayed for this moment for centuries. Every step he took was a prayer in motion, a sacred and dangerous dance between the protector and the land he was sworn to keep holy and beautiful until the end of time. The earth beneath his feet vibrated with the gravity of his purpose, the very soil of the southwest recognizing its champion and groaning in anticipation of the final confrontation. He eventually reached the gaping mouth of a cavern that breathed cold, stagnant air, a place of absolute negation where the sun's rays had never dared to touch since the beginning of the world. This was the lair of the final Naayééʼ, the subtle embodiment of the lingering fear and doubt that remains even when the physical monsters have all been slain and buried. Neizghání stepped into the suffocating gloom, his flint armor glowing with an internal, pulsing luminescence that pushed back the encroaching dark like a beacon of hope in a storm. He saw a flicker of movement, a shape-shifting horror that mimicked the faces of his fallen comrades and the families he had failed to save during his long, blood-soaked journey. You cannot kill what is already woven into the human spirit, little god, the shadow hissed, its voice sounding like the grinding of dry bones in a forgotten grave. The hero stood firm, his feet planted wide on the cold cavern floor, refusing to let the cruel illusions and whispers cloud his divine vision or shake his iron resolve. He realized in that moment of silence that a hero's true strength did not lie in the sharpness of his weapons, but in the purity of his heart and the clarity of his sacred mind. He drew a single arrow of white shell, the brilliance of it illuminating the grotesque, shifting features of the creature that crouched before him in the dirt. The monster lunged with impossible speed, a mass of claws and teeth that seemed to defy the laws of geometry, reaching for the hero's throat with a scream of pure malice. With a grace born of 1,000 sunrises, Neizghání dodged the strike, his heavy flint armor clashing against the stone walls with a sound that echoed like mountain thunder. He realized that this monster fed on his own hidden fatigue and his private doubts about whether the people would still need a protector once the darkness was gone. If he killed every monster, would the people forget the meaning of bravery? Would they lose their vital connection to the holy beings and become stagnant in their peace? These agonizing thoughts were the true venom of the final hunt, a psychological poison far more dangerous than any claw, fang, or stinger he had ever encountered before. He closed his eyes, ignoring the monster's shrieks and focusing entirely on the rhythm of his own heartbeat, which beat in perfect time with the pulse of the living earth. He remembered the gentle teachings of changing woman, who spoke of the eternal balance and the necessity of both light and shadow in the complex weaving of the tapestry of life. I do not hunt for the sake of glory or the songs of men, he whispered into the swirling dark, his voice steady and devoid of the hot anger that had fueled his youth. I hunt so that the children yet unborn may sleep without the crushing weight of your shadow. Upon their dreams, he continued, his words glowing with power. The monster shrieked in agony, its form flickering and becoming transparent as the hero's unwavering resolve began to overwrite the reality of the darkness around them. He released the arrow of light, but it did not strike the monster's shifting heart. Instead, it struck the ground beneath it, shattering the very foundation of the ancient cave. Blinding light flooded in from a hidden rift created by the impact, pouring down like a golden, celestial waterfall of divine intervention and unshakable hope. The creature of shadow began to dissolve like mist under a summer sun, unable to maintain its form or its lies in the presence of such unfiltered, holy energy. But it did not die in the way of mortal things. It transformed, its dark essence scattering into the winds to become the minor trials and tribulations that define the human experience. Neizghání watched with somber eyes as the ancient darkness became the bite of winter, the sting of the desert cactus, and the hunger of a long, dry drought. These were challenges the people could overcome through wisdom, tradition, and hard work, rather than the impossible, world-ending horrors of the old, chaotic world. The final hunt was not about the total annihilation of struggle, but about bringing the world back into a state of Hazo the Great, beautiful and eternal balance. As the dust and light settled, the hero felt a profound, aching lightness in his chest, a sensation of peace he had not truly known since the monsters first rose. He walked out of the cave into the bright, golden afternoon, where his brother born for water was waiting patiently with a vessel of pure, cold mountain water. They shared a long drink in silence, the water tasting of melted high-altitude snow and the silent promise of a peaceful, industrious tomorrow for all of Dinana. The world is finally quiet, brother, born for water remarked, looking out over the vast, colorful expanse of the painted desert that stretched to the horizon. Neizghání nodded slowly, removing his heavy flint helmet to reveal a face lined with the deep wisdom and the scars of 1,000 lifetimes. His task as a slayer of monsters was officially finished, but his journey as a teacher, a lawgiver, and a spiritual guardian was only just beginning its new phase. They began the long journey back toward the center of the world, passing through the lands of various tribes who had lived in frozen terror for generations. Everywhere they went, the people emerged from their dwellings with tears of joy, eyes wide with wonder at the sight of the living gods walking among them once more. The hero did not ask for elaborate offerings, gold, or songs of praise. He only asked that they never forget the terrible cost of the peace they now enjoyed. He taught them the complex songs of protection and the intricate prayers that keep the human mind focused on the narrow path of beauty and internal harmony. He showed them how to read the maps of the stars, for even though the monsters were gone, the celestial patterns still held the vital secrets of seasonal survival. The plains and the mesas seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief, the very plants turning their leaves toward the nourishing sun with a newfound, vibrant vigor. As the seasons turned from heat to cold, the legend of Neizghání grew, becoming the very bedrock of the culture and the resilient spirit of the Southwest. He visited the great, silent canyons where the ancient ones had built their stone cities, honoring the spirits of those who had fallen during the long, dark times of the Naayééʼ. He stood at the edge of the Grand Canyon, marveling at the layers of red time revealed in the rock, a testament to the incredible endurance of the earth itself. Even the strongest, most stubborn stone is shaped by the gentlest water over time, he told the young warriors who followed him, seeking to learn his ways. He urged them to be like the mountain water, persistent, life-giving, and always capable of finding a way through the hardest and most jagged obstacles. One evening, as the moon rose over the horizon like a polished silver shield, Neizghání felt the irresistible call of his father, the sun, vibrating in his bones. The sacred time of the holy people walking physically among the five-finger people was coming to its natural and necessary end. The world was now in the hands of the humans, and they had to learn to walk the trail of beauty without a god to hold their hands or lead their steps. He gathered the tribal elders one last time beneath the sprawling, aromatic branches of an ancient cedar tree that had witnessed the birth of the world. I leave you my bow of lightning and my armor of flint as symbols of your strength, he said, his voice carrying the resonance of the mountains themselves. But more importantly, I leave you the courage to face the shadows within your own hearts, for those are the only true monsters left in this world. The elders wept openly, but they understood that a hero's greatest and final gift is his eventual departure, leaving space for the people to find their own power. He and his brother began their final, slow ascent up the steep slopes of Neizghání, the holy mountain of the east, as the world watched in silence. As they climbed higher, the physical world began to blur and shimmer into the spiritual realm, the very air vibrating with the brilliant colors of the eternal dawn. They passed through the low clouds of turquoise and the swirling mist of white shell, moving slowly but surely beyond the reach of mortal eyes and earthly concerns. At the very summit, a bridge of pure rainbow appeared, stretching from the peak of the mountain into the blazing, golden heart of the midday sun. Neizghání turned back one final time, looking over the dinnet of the land that he had bled for, fought for, and loved with every fiber of his being. He saw the smoke rising peacefully from the hogans, the sheep grazing on the greening hillsides, and the laughter of children playing in the sandy wash below. He saw the resilience of a people who had survived the absolute unthinkable, and emerged from the darkness even stronger and more beautiful than before. With a final, solemn nod of satisfaction, he stepped onto the shimmering rainbow bridge, his faithful brother born for water following close behind him. Their physical forms became pure light, merging with the overwhelming radiance of the sun as it reached its zenith, over the center of the world. The people below looked up and saw a double sun for a brief, miraculous moment, a sign that the great twins had finally returned to their father's celestial house. The wind carried a final, ghostly whisper across the vast plains and through the deep canyons. Walk in beauty, for the world is finally restored to Hazo. From that day forward, the people looked to the towering mountains and the wide sky, knowing their protectors were still there, watching from the spirit world. Whenever the sharp lightning flashed in the summer monsoon sky, they said it was Neizghání testing his arrows against the encroaching clouds of chaos. Whenever the rain fell gently and persistently upon the thirsty earth, they knew it was born for water, ensuring the continued life and growth of the land. The physical monsters did not return to the world, for the people held the sacred stories of the hero's final hunt close to their hearts like a shield. They learned that every new generation must face its own unique monsters, the monsters of greed, the shadows of hatred, and the loss of connection. But they also knew, with a certainty that transcended time, that they carried the blood of gods in their veins and the power of the sun in their daily prayers. The story of Neizghání is not just a dusty tale of the distant past, but a living map for the future, a guide for living in a world that is harsh. It teaches us that the hunt for balance never truly ends. It only changes its outward form as we grow, struggle, and evolve as human beings. We must each be the slayers of our own paralyzing doubts, and the fierce protectors of our own communities against the darkness of indifference. We must always remember that even the most terrifying, world-shaking monster can be transformed into a vital lesson if we have the courage to face it. The southwestern sun continues to bake the ancient red earth, and the winds continue to carve the mesas into fantastic, impossible shapes that defy time. And in the quiet, sacred moments between the gust of wind, you can still hear the distant clank of flint armor and the low hum of a sun-tipped arrow. The legacy of the monster slayer is etched permanently into every grain of sand, and every cooling drop of the summer monsoon rain that feeds the corn. He remains the eternal guardian of the spirit, the first son who proved to the gods and men alike that love for one's people is the greatest weapon. As we close this sacred chapter of the legend, let us look at our own personal horizons with the same clarity, courage, and divine purpose. May the undying spirit of the final hunt inspire you to seek the balance in your own busy life, and find the beauty in your own unique journey. For in the final reckoning, we are all hunters of the light, searching for the ancient path that leads us back to the heart of Hazo and the sun. The red mesas are waiting, the sun is rising over the horizon, and the story continues through every one of us who dares to stand for the truth. Thank you for walking this long and sacred path with us through the ancient myths, the holy mountains, and the legends of the Southwest. If this story stirred the hero within you, please comment, like, share, and subscribe to Storycraft Studio for more legends that illuminate the soul.